Hello, and the issue is dwindling revenue within the mining sector, and 3,500 people's jobs are at stake because gold prices have dropped. With me in the studio is Prince William Ankra, General Secretary, Ghana Mine Workers Union, and Daniel Krampa, Financial Analyst and Mineral Commission. But just before wanting to break, Prince, I wanted to find out, can't the state sort of protect its workers? Say, look, if you're coming here to work, I'm giving you X amount of people to work, and until you can show me that you're losing 30% of revenue or profit, you can't touch any of my guys who are working for you. They have to work. Because in other jurisdictions, they do. And you see the companies come into parliament to justify that I need to lay off because now I'm losing. And the parliaments will say, no, you can't. You have to keep them working. And it works. I mean, are we beyond or below that?
Yeah, I think that it really boils down to the nature of the economy. These are very vibrant economies with their own political muscle and economic strengths. Mm-hmm. And I'm sure that before you walk in there, they are very concerned about unemployment numbers. We all witnessed what Obama went through during the campaign. Hey, you say you fix it. Numbers are not going the way you want to, so you don't deserve a second term. He had to really have an emotional chemistry with the middle class people to allow him emerge as a president. I think we have a bit of a leeway, and I think when you ask ourselves, is that the way to go? Because multinational companies, the reality is that they are here to really make margins and big-time margins. Mm-hmm. So until we begin to apply the blame, look, we believe that in all these situations, let's have a scenario that will ensure that, look, we have allowed you to tax breaks, and that is to help you really have a bit of cash flow, quite strengthened. So this should guide the extent that, you repatriate margins here and there. Let's make sure that we'll plan back in such a way that we'll be able to do the right thing. Let's make sure that in terms of, looking at your cost, the cost is being looked against the backdrop that, you don't bring in expatriate numbers that we have their skills here. I can assure you many of the time we got reflux around. And these are major costs. You pay people who do not really worth their salt. We've got skills here, and yet there are every means to really persuade government that, look, we need to send A, B, C, D. I've had a chance to really have a word with the Minister of Interior, and the idea was to be able to find out from us what exactly to do to minimize the external influx of expatriates. Because the cost issue is really important. Mm-hmm. The cost of materials is very important. And obviously, because we don't have any buffer industry here, the reality is that everything is really procured offshore. Mm-hmm. In spite of all the tax leverages here and there, who know a price transfer, and that is a major trick that multinational business can use. Recently Ghana has passed a law to that effect. I go able to go a long way to deal with that to a large extent. But the external reality is that we all learn about ethical investment here in the business school. When they get a business where it's quite a different ballgame altogether. So we need to be careful as a state to really apply the brakes. Look, we're watching the extent that we allow the tax breaks alongside your need to retain employees in very bad times. And so the essence of allowing the tax break that we have retained to date, which arguably doesn't make business sense because in an initial stage, when you want to try the FDI, you can do that. But over time, we're not tighten it because we think that it still helps to really keep employees in job. If that's not going to happen, then as part of the package that we are looking at negotiating mining contract further, I think it's convenient that we need to really ask ourselves, do we really incorporate some sort of checks and balance of that nature? That might not seem that we are restraining the business from doing what they want to do, but the reality being that, look, as a government, you get judged by making you provide jobs. Mm-hmm. So if there are global businesses that will not really fit in that agenda, then you ask, hey, come on, are they here in your interest? So it's a whole mix of complexity, but I believe that at the end of this century, we've got to state that engagement is key. Mm-hmm. Let's all ask ourselves, to what extent do we want to make sure that all the actors in the sector do have their fair share, and how do we mitigate the impact of dwindling gold price on the economy in terms of receipt for the government, as I said earlier, and also those that affect employee. But you may not necessarily legislate, but I think that you have to just get into an engagement, because if you go legislate, it will appear as if you are constraining the businesses. And multinationals have a way to argue their case out that, hey, Ghana is being so tough on us. Maybe Guinea will be a bit relaxed. Can we then sneak to Guinea? And that weakness government also do have.
Thank you. I got on the phone Ahmed Nantongma, Director Communications and Public Affairs for Ghana Chambers of Mine. Ahmed, hello and good evening.
Yeah, good evening.
Well, the conversation is literally 3,500 workers in the mining industries whose jobs are at stake because of gold prices that have dropped. And we are trying to find out if it's fair, because if indeed gold prices tomorrow went to 3,000, they won't get a pay rise and they won't employ more people. Can the state go to them and say, listen, if it goes up, after all, you don't want to pay the windfall tax, so you need to hire them?
Well, good evening again, and good evening to your listeners. I've been following the debate, and my senior brother is there, Prince Ankara, Mr. Krampa from the Finance Commission.
Yeah.
And to start with, I agree with Prince. It's a whole mix. It's a whole mix of issues. It's not just the gold price alone, but the gold price has fallen. But you say the cost of inputs, energy, have gone up. Ingredients like the cyanide, the tax, increase in taxes, all parts. So when all these go up and the gold price falls, that is where we have that drastic fall in prices. I mean, it's fair to say that when the times were good, companies were managing, and other times are bad, so money. Definitely, you can manage up to an extent. And companies look at the cost. You have to cut costs all around before you go to maybe the retrenchment or the redundancies, which, as Prince will know, is a very expensive exercise. It's usually the last resort, but sometimes the person is created that, once the gold price falls, then people lay off workers. It's not necessarily in that correlation, but following the gold price, in addition to all other factors, would lead to such a situation, such an unfortunate situation.
Let me bring Daniel in here, because you're a financial analyst. Now, I read somewhere, and I'm sure our union guy, that in Obuasi Goldfields, 2 people working the same job, right? One is from Australia, the one is from Ghana. The one in Ghana gets $800, the one in Australia gets $18,000. I mean, that much disparity. I mean, is it a reality?
Yeah, I mean, it's questionable.
It's questionable, so, I mean, at this rate, that means this guy alone is employing about 5-10 people in his wages.
You see, the whites are looked at as, they're expatriates, and expatriates are paid differently.
Well, I mean, even if you came from Mars.
But I think that, Mr. Anker knows much about
this.
It is something that is happening.
Yeah, I happen to be on a web bank program in the US, and I come across a renowned Cornell professor. I said, look, I would like to challenge this funny assumption that I turned to the 21st century. These are part of the neoliberal concept. The reality is that you and I came from Imperial School of Mines. Excuse me, maybe you're a white boy, I'm better than you. You get a boss, hey, you're going to make this box. Ask myself, do I belong here? Our guys are gradually find their prices out there. I was in Perth, Australia, and I can assure you our folks are making good monies. The reality being that if you don't want to put a right value on them, they will leave. Unfortunately, it has been a debate on the table. I know in the case of AGs at the time, there was a colleague who happened to be alma mater, came from Camborne. A folk of his came along. That guy was going to command by 5 times his pay. The guy looked at it and said, look, I can't stay with this. I'm going to leave to Australia. This guy is a big-time guy in Australia. So it's evident that we can't go that route. Interestingly, even though they've joined this debate, but I can assure you that as we speak, big organizations like Anglo Ashanti have come to terms that, look, if we follow the logic, the guys will leave us.
I see.
So now there's an effort towards addressing that gap. I've spoken to some key CEOs who are really realized that, look, we can go that route. It's a model that had really had its footing over time. But the reality is that, look, our guys here are solid. When they go out there, they command the market value. Unfortunately, when these guys leave and we run short of skills, we are compelled to really go out there to bring expatriates. And when they come, you put the right value on them against the backdrop of country parity ratio. It's obviously nonsensical. It doesn't make sense anymore. And that's why we think that we need to be very strong. And our government must be very careful that they don't interfere, because let's face it, working out there is quite extent. As we speak, in the Eurotide, mine workers, no matter your level of grade, apart from the big boys who went to have a rest, from the mine engineers to the very person who's in a truck, they'll be at work. Most of the expatriate guys will not be there, but our guys will mind them in terms of skills, and we are seriously dealing with the issue. So the skills disparity is huge, and you can't just allow that to continue. I'm happy that along the line, the business leaders are driving home, because mining skills are becoming very scarce. And whether we like it or not, if we don't do the right thing, folks will leave us, go and work for the big mining houses or countries out there and they put the right value on them. There was a case in Obuasi where 2 mine captains, that's during the middle type people, management personnel had a case and were trying them on a disciplinary hearing. The guy just snubbed the hearing. Then the following week they were in Barrick, Tanzania. Excuse me, they did their skill. They don't come back to, hey, come on, how do they leave AG Obuasi? So it's really very evident now, and those are things that we need to seriously look at it. And I think our government must be proud that we advance this cause. If mine workers get rich, they pay the right taxes, it booms the mining economies, and obviously it means a sustainable livelihood. Obviously,
everything.
Just like we see those guys owning good cars out there.
Danny, I still want to go away as I come back to Danny.
Yeah.
We've been mining for centuries. Is there no way that we can say that we're going to own one mine pit, one small refinery, and one small vault, and just put our bars in that vault? Just one.
It's an interesting scenario. Looking at the whole mining sector, we don't have a Ghanaian-owned mine.
We should try it.
We should try it. But the reality of the fact is that mining is a very capital-intensive activity.
So small one.
And very risky. And you know that Ghanaians...
We don't like risk.
We don't like risk.
I'm going to take it.
You are...
I'm sure there's some
find it
where
difficult.
you know that as for here, there's gold here.
Sure. That is why attempts are being made to encourage Ghanaians to come into mining.
Yeah.
By starting with the linkages. Even now, we are encouraging Ghanaians to supply the mines with almost all the services and then the consumable that they need, so that there will be an integration of Ghanaians into the mining industry. But the reality of the fact is that most Ghanaians don't want to take risk, and mining is a very risky business. And one factor too is that it's a very capital-intensive activity. If you don't have the capital, if you don't have the money, you can't go into mining.
Danny, I agree. I'm not saying let us start Obuasi or let us start Newmont. Just the size of this room, small, with a small vault. And then as we dig, then maybe next year we just add small. But to say zero...
that is why the Minerals and Mining Law made small scale a wholly Ghanaian activity. Sure.
But then we can regulate
only Ghanaians are supposed to go into small-scale mining. But as you know, we are facing challenges.
A lot of challenges.
From the landowners, the chiefs, opinion leaders. I think we have to face the facts that no foreigner can go into anybody's land to go and do mining without the knowledge of the locals.
My colleagues.
Colleagues. It's unfortunate I have to say this, but I think we need to collaborate to make the sector very attractive for Ghanaians to go into it, rather than trying to bring in foreigners who may, in the long run, take over the whole activity. So I think that there's an avenue for Ghanaians to go into mining, and I think we have to seize that opportunity.
I still have Ahmed on the phone. Ahmed. Hello, how to go, Ahmed?
Hello, yes, I'm here.
Yeah, the conversation is getting interesting, and all I'm just trying to find out is, after all these years of reasons and excuses and everything, and the gold is ours, and we get so much percentage out of it, what can we do to, so that we can get a bit more than we are getting now? Because our contracts are weak, our negotiations are poor, and it's dragged on so long. I think we've run out of excuses.
Yeah, it's funny. It's coming full cycle. We used to own the mines. It was still Gold Mine Corporation. Mm-hmm. We used to own all the mines until we found the need to privatize it. There was a reason why the mines were privatized. If you look at that time, all the mines were basically run down. And then we privatized it. And now people came into aid, and now the mines have come up again, and we are looking at the issue of owning them again. So it's like really sometimes I feel that we want to own them only when it is good. But when it is not good, we don't want to put our money there. Another option too is that we can look at, equity. You go to Botswana. I think the government has about 50% in the DBS. 50, yeah. They are diamond. Yeah. So if you put money and equity, then you are a shareholder. But if it's a free carried interest, then definitely what you get will not be equivalent to your expectation. So I think that maybe as as a state or as a nation, we can decide to make more investment into the mining sector, deliberately put more, apart from owning the resource. I mean, put some capital up front. For instance, some of the mines start in the middle of nowhere. The roads, the electricity, the water, everything has to be fixed by the mining company. So if it provides 90% of all the inputs into the mine, definitely you can expect more. But if, for instance, there's a little, like you say, own a mine, that the new mine is coming up, we have the roads, we have electricity there already, and we look for a partner. And then we run the mine as partners. Then we can share the cost 50-50. But if you say, I have a hole in the ground, I have gold there, come dig it out, and then make all the investment. And sometimes it starts with exploration. You could sink a lot of money into the ground and not make a find. You go away. So until you make a find, there's even no mine to run. So, Nana, I think that it's interesting. I mean, we should put more money or more funding into the sector.
Ahmed, you are in communication, so I'll stay with you. You see, if we put value only on the metal that you find, then that's how come we come in the negotiations. But if we add the fact that, listen, we are peaceful, nobody's going to rob, compared to Nigeria, Jamaica, you're going to be peaceful, you're going to be respected. We should add all that into our negotiations to build value.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. We can do that. I mean, we lead the negotiations. When the negotiation is going to be signed, is the state that is on one side and the company is on another side. So
but we seem to say that the only thing we have of value is if indeed you find gold. But I'm saying that even the hospitality of the people where you're going to be, if you compare Boko Haram and all that stuff, we don't have that. I mean, that alone must be worth something else on the contract.
I agree. I agree, and that is the first thing that attracts the people here, the hospitality. And once those people come in down here, then how do we maximize? For instance, you see, it's one thing attracting the person in or the company into your country. I have this, I have that. Now the person has come in and really has seen that you have this potential. How do we say that, look, because of this is the percentage you want? And you negotiate upfront so that it's clear on the table that, look, I own this, I have this percentage. Then when it comes to sharing, everything is shared according to what we put in. But sometimes, like I said, we wait, and then the company, after they do well, and then we say that, no, we own the resource. But then you realize that if they say, what is it, 10%? Free carried interest. So if it's 10%, that means you get dividends 10%. But if you have, apart from the 10% carried interest, you have other things that you think is equity. You can negotiate those aspects as equity. And I think it's the only is on us. And I believe my brothers in the studio will bear with me that
exactly
some
because
of the things have come from us. We need to sit up and renegotiate and look at our issues and know
that is just open a graph. So I think he's going to take us through some education there. And I hope within your education, I want the amount of percentage that we repatriate. If we cut it down, is it going to save or help us or some?
No, but we repatriate. The companies repatriate over 76% into this country of their revenues. So sometimes the notion is that they repatriate only 20%. It's not true. Over 70% of all mineral proceeds are repatriated back into Ghana, and they are spent in Ghana here.
I thought it was 25%.
You see, the law stated that you can a minimum of 25%. But realistically, no company can run its affairs on just 25% of its income. So some of them send back as much as 70% of their income back into the country for diesel, for labor, for all kinds of things that we buy in country. I wish I could have showed you the graph, the percentages of who gets what in terms of mineral revenue. But when you take just the law that says those days that the law was passed, I mean, it was only Bank of Ghana that had foreign currency, and how to get foreign currency was difficult. And because of that, companies were allowed to keep their money offshore. But now the companies get, through the commercial banks, they send back a lot of money. And this is verified from the Bank of Ghana as to how much has been sent each year. Over 70% of mineral revenue is retained in Ghana here and is spent on so many sectors within the economy. So like Mr. Kampa was saying, local content is one of the issues that we think is important. But when we say local content, it's not just saying that a Ghanaian go to China and buy Wellington boots and supply to a mining company as local content. Sometimes that's not local content. How do we employ more people so that the boots and nuts with Smido and all these are made in Ghana? That is also part of mining. So these are the issues that we have to look at, and then so that we can get a better return from our industry, instead of just saying that, look, revenue taxation, you increase the taxation to a point. That cannot help us. So
Okay.
that is the agenda that the chamber is pushing together with the stakeholders, and I think Prince is aware of some of the things I'm talking about.
Thank you. So by his assertion, it means the mining companies are working on about 24% margin. By his assertion, because if they repatriate 76 back to operate with, i.e. electricity, pay Prince and his boys, buy diesel, buy that, it means they're working on about 24% profit. I was thinking that there was a bit more profit in mining than that.
No, I think that profit is different from this repatriation issue.
Yeah.
This repatriation issue is what we call the retention level. Now I have figures here that show we have the mandatory repatriation, mandatory. Then we have the voluntary that will help you out. Now in 2008, mining companies voluntarily repatriated about 22%. That's the lowest. Then mandatory, they repatriated about voluntary repatriation.
Okay.
Mandatory, they repatriated about 20%. But if you look at the figures, they keep on increasing. In 2010, they repatriated about 66%. 2011, they repatriated about 74%. 2012, about 72%. And 2013, as at June, they had repatriated about 70%. So,
money brought back home.
Yes, money brought back home. And these are made up of mandatory and the voluntary. So there's
76% of what? Of their profit, of their revenue?
76% of their revenue.
Of their revenue.
Yes.
Well, so that's why I'm saying that if of their revenue, then it means...
No, but now if you're talking about only the margins and you are taking that 24%, upon what basis are you determining the margin?
Well, because I'm supposing they take their profit out and bring their capital back into work.
No, it's the total revenue.
The total revenue.
It's the total revenue.
Yeah.
Well, so they're not making any money, as we thought.
No, they do. I think virtually it's
I'm lost. I've got the whole math wrong. Imagine I got 100 CDs today from mining, and then I brought 76 CDs back to put in the company.
Yeah.
It means I kept just 26 CDs in the bank.
But the 26 doesn't mean that the whole 26 is your profit. Doesn't necessarily mean that. I hope you understand me.
I do understand.
Yeah, sure. So you can't say that the 24% that they keep is their profit.
So it could be less than that.
It can be less than that.
It can be more.
It can be less than that.
Okay.
Yeah. So these figures as well show that the on the average for the period that I have, they reported about 61%. 61%. But if you go back and if you go forward as my brother Amber said, it averages around about 75-76%.
Well, so then, actually, when I come back, we'll take a quick break, and then I come back to Prince. Then maybe they adjust if they have to let everybody off because they're not keeping that much back. Otherwise, you have to really clarify because, in my understanding, if a mining company takes 100 CDs out of the country and then brings 76 CDs back to put in the business, i.e. pay for their cars and their fuel and everything, they're not holding back a lot, are they? When we come back, we'll find out. Interesting. But I'm going to go to Prince and I'm going to find out two things. I mean, he's, mine workers, have they charged government to say, listen, let us go, we found a spot where there's gold, we'll dig it, you just bring out a safe, we'll melt it and keep the money in there, and that's going to be our money. And then we'll move on to the larger stage as to, what, the tax breaks and everything. How are we checking it? Because otherwise 3,500 people are going to lose their job. Prince, let me start with you. You are with the unions.
I think that virtually we've done it before, but with a struggle. I mean, when Dr. Nkrumah, our first president, took over the State Governing Corporation, comprising BBNE, Takwa, Pusia, Konongo, and Dunko. With difficulty, it ran to a large extent. And those were times that you could really have volumes of recruitment really being done. And obviously, we didn't have this sort of notion of, stock market here and there. So government had a leverage in making sure you do your own thing. Nothing like a retention account there. You could just procure some stuff out there and still have enough money to do whatever you want to do. at least the state want to run up to about 30 years or more. That in effect means that look, it was really a basis for demonstrating whether the state could do it or not. I think at some point in time, given the changing dynamics, the World Bank advised government that look, you better shift from all these businesses because you are not business getting into these sort of major ventures that would drain your coffers. So why wouldn't we just focus on how you drive the economy here and there? So we started attracting foreign direct investment here. And must be understood, look, the initial capital injection into mining project can be huge. And obviously, it will need a rethinking intent. I mean, let's face it, with our banks who had the financial muscle to look at a bankable document and say that, look, we'll dole the money. I'm sure for now the banks will look out. Just discover one of the bankers in our countries that could that be tried. Say, okay, enter a debate on that. So that's the real challenge. I think in quite recent time, Zoom Lion had tried to own a diamond mine in Akutia. Apparently, I'm not seeing anything happen there yet. For me, I'm praying that they do it right. If that becomes a success story, then it means a lot for us. But that would mean that the state will ask us, well, do you partner him and make sure that it becomes successful? Because here we are, there's an iron ore mine in Sweden, and evidence depicts that it's been one of the profitable mines that you can have in Sweden. It's run by the states. So are there lessons to learn from there? That will impact on private sector Ghanaian persons who are worked into a diamond business. Again, it also means that if we're able to really have a sort of detailed geological information in terms of all reserves, then we can say, look, when you come here, we have these reserves intact. If you want to do a due diligence to ascertain what we're saying, you can do that. Then that will give it a better stake. Is it 50-50 or what? So that means that, well, you have enough revenue to say, look, can I begin to test how I can dole out cash to Ghanaians who want to go into small scale mining and do it well, and they can grow into big times mining. So it's all about challenging the status quo. And in this world, we need trailblazers. If you want to be sitting in your comfort zone, everything will look impossible. And you will continue to argue that, look, multinational businesses come here, they really do all that they need to, the money doesn't stay here, and all kind of stuff. So it requires a kind of rethinking. And I think that you only need the state and individual banks here to really challenge ourselves that, look, we'll challenge the status quo, we'll be trailblazers, we may fail, but look, at the end of the day, we'll try and see how far it goes. I mean, nothing comes without trying. And if you are afraid to really break new grounds, obviously you just sit around and keep complaining, you're not going to get anywhere. So the cost outlay, initial capital injection can be huge. And for that matter, many governments or individual Ghanaians and banks will want to stay away from it. But others will want to risk, and that's what they do. And when they bring in those monies, obviously, in terms of whatever they want to do, they will do. But I think that we'll go to a stage that, for instance, I can use Obuasi as a case study. Obuasi has a constraint now. It got a very rich ore body, but unfortunately, Anglo Gold is really struggling to fix the problem. I mean, we had a lot of discussion regarding that, how to go about it, whether the state must show interest here and there. It's all issues that are being discussed. I mean, we only got to ask ourselves, well, to what extent do we do that? Do we take Obuasi out of the Anglo group and go back and virtually do it? In the past, we needed $100 million to ensure that AGC did not go into the measure that they went into. But the Ghana government said, look, I cannot guarantee that. And obviously, as a smart business entity, they had to go and explore that synergy with Anglo Gold. And then we had this measure that had really prevailed today. But Obuasi is a rich ore body. Unfortunately, access to that ore body became an issue because that's the only underground mine we do have here. And what that means is that you got to ask yourself, well, would the state decide alone? Now we have two fortunes. We have our three fortunes. We have cocoa, we have oil, we have, gold and other minerals. Do we begin to say, look, we challenge the status quo? The oil revenue that we intend set aside for the future, excuse me, is there any way that we can say, look, we'll do our money into serious partnership and begin to have a better stake and ensure that we have nationals who will go in out there, be very focused, ask the right questions, make sure that we'll get a right fair share. And, thereon we can do open book systems. And that's the way to go. But as I said, if we don't do that, then we'll sit on the fence. We'll still be struggling with this sort of problem that we're talking today.
Daddy, are we over-relying on cocoa, gold, the same old usual suspects? Are we over-relying on them?
Yeah, I think we are relying on the traditional minerals that we have, and there's a need for us to diversify into other minerals. The government, through the mining sector support program that was funded by the European Union, has done some work in some areas of the country. I want to mention the Nkwanta area, which is in the northern part of Water region, where some studies were done under the mining sector support program, and some minerals were identified. Now it's up to us to improve upon the exercise and identify whether these minerals exist in commercial quantity, so that we will be able to put more effort there so that we can mine. I think we should also develop the salt industry. Yeah. Salt is a very important mineral, and I think that we have, the whole of West Africa, I think we have the best conditions to win solar salt. And I think that more effort should be put in that direction so that we can, branch into those other minerals that we have. So there's the need for us to do that.
Because I think it's the same. But you see, one thing I also get worried is when we do research which is funded by multinationals, aren't they going to research it in a way so that they get a benefit at the end of it? I mean, why do I want to pay you to research so that you benefit from it?
No, the point is, I think before every project is undertaken, we need to develop agreements. Who becomes the owner of the reserve finance? It also applies in the mining sector. When multinationals come in to do some of these studies, we have to make sure that we have the reports, the maps, and whatnot, so that we can package it well, so that we can improve upon it. And I think that we also need to restore the Geological Survey Department so that they can do more mapping activities by going into areas where there have not been any geological investigation, so that they can investigate, so that we can at least get some more minerals that we have not been able to identify in Ghana now. So it's a very important thing that the GSD should be restored with modern equipment.
Just quickly, I mean, as we are now, apart from digging and taking the money, we don't have any other value chain addition like sifting through and doing this. Should we put a hold and go and build that, maybe an iron, a refinery or something, and then come back and say, okay, now we are ready. Let's go to business?
I think there's a policy for the mining sector now that anybody, let me even use the bauxite deposit that we have. It's government policy that there should be an integrated aluminum industry using the bauxite that we have. So now, anybody who will come in and be given the various bauxite concessions that you have, the idea is that you will mine the bauxite, transform it into alumina, and then transform it into aluminium. You won't give you the lease so that you can just mine the raw bauxite and then you ship it out.
Okay, Prince, is there something you can identify within the mining fraternity, i.e. maybe pure water or pens or cyanide or mercury mix, and tell your 3,000 people that, listen, let's go into this industry, because once these guys are here, by all means, they need ABC. Let's go and produce it and come and sell it to them and forget about going to mine. Is there something you can identify?
Yeah, I think eventually you got to ask us. A point has been made here. I mean, you ask us what can be done next. Assuming that we decide to say, look, we have iron ore deposits upon Valley. And we all know what iron ore means for our country. If we're able to go to commercial, if it's a commercial country, we enter into and mine it very well. We'll make leaps and bounds. But the reality is that we've just been very complacent as a nation. And again, integrated way of doing mining, bauxite into alumina and all those series. Where do we stand? We've got a Chinese here in Awasu. They've been here to date, better about 6 years or more. Now, as we speak, they'll still haul the ore by road from Awasu to Takrady. The so-called Western Railway line whatsoever hadn't really seen a dime. So it's about misplaced priority. Let's face it. And these are things that we keep procrastinating. We keep postponing regime to regime. So that's the stark reality. So fundamentally, you ask yourself, to what extent are we going to make a headway? It's a whole constraint. The gold sector, as soon as we say, look, I've been to Thailand and, to Hong Kong, all those areas, but they don't have gold. But the beneficiation, the jewelry shops that you see, if I'm not exaggerating, it could be here from here to Makola.
Quickly.
And that's where we say, get a portion of the gold production, put it in that, let's develop a beneficiation with a view to making sure we have that sort of opportunity here. And that will create a lot of jobs here and there, and we are able also to benefit from
just a quick education. Just a quick education. How do we know we have 1,000 ounces when we have no refinery? How do you know that's how much you got?
Well, the point is that was a point. I mean, Dr. Nkrumah was so smart. He put up a gold refinery in Takwa. At the time, he knew that at a certain production level, we could refine the gold here and get other byproducts. I posed that question in the mid-80s. That, look, to what extent are we going to really do that?
So basically,
the idea was that when we get there, we'll do so.
The amount we know is the amount we've been told that we
surpassed that.
No.
And yet we are not refining here. Quite recently, there was a kind of small scale, something that is on Ghanaian trial, kind of medium scale kind of refining here. But that wouldn't do the trick because it was meant to ensure that, beside the gold itself, the other byproduct that you could get that could do a lot of stuff here and there. So the reality is that our mineral gold production has surpassed the level that we could do a refining here. I'm not doing an announcement. Maybe he can tell if he's done that. So of course, announcement regarding how much that will entail.
How do we know? How do we certify the gold go? 30 seconds.
Yeah, there's a customs officer on the mine.
Who does that?
Who satisfies every gold that is produced. Yeah. Then, if it is living, there's a customs personnel at the airport who satisfy. There's also documentation that we have to do with the Bank of Ghana before it is sealed. So all these processes are there, checks and balances are there to determine the quantity of gold that leaves.
Yeah, that guarantees. Okay. But the reality here is that as long as we continue to really do that arrangement of producing and shipping, beneficiation is key. Can we retain 20% of the gold here? And say, look, we want to go into beneficiation, create a pool of jewelry shops here and there.
Gentlemen, thank you very much. I need to. It's been interesting. I've been talking to Daniel Kampra, Financial Analysis Mineral Commission, and William Ankara, General Secretary for Ghana Mines and Workers. My name is Nana Ansaka, and tomorrow, those who have access to Joy FM, 2 o'clock to 3 o'clock, I'll be on there with a show I call That's My Opinion. And what I am asking tomorrow is, if Jesus Christ came today, is he going to come to your church? It's an interesting question. You need to tune in and listen. My name is Nana Ansaka, and it's been wonderful.